I went to Bacchus Vascular, and this opportunity came solely based on reputation. I didn't have to go out and look for a job. Tom Fogarty wanted to start this company with another colleague of mine from Anurex. They got together to start it up. They hired me as the first engineer, and my VP of R&D started just a few weeks later, and we built this company from the ground up. We developed a catheter for treating blood clots in peripheral vessels. The idea was that a lot of lytic agents were used generally to treat, to dissolve clots, but they were just dripped in systemically. And there were a lot of bleeding complications, and patients were very uncomfortable for multiple days in the hospital, et cetera. We said if we could isolate the clot, then we could put in just a little bit of drug, agitate it mechanically, and accelerate the process, and then suck it all out. So that's what this product did. You can see the two balloons went up. There was a little motor-controlled device on the back end that caused this whole thing to wiggle, and we just injected a little bit of lytic agent, dissolved the clot, and sucked it out. While it sounds easy, it really, really was not easy at all. I was there for about 5 years, and I learned a lot, what not to do in a startup. I had a very aggressive senior staff that felt that they could take all the shortcuts in the world and just make it happen. So we were looking at treating dialysis grafts, peripheral arteries, and deep vein thrombosis. We started in dialysis grafts because it sounded like a really easy regulatory pathway. We could find predicate devices, file a paper 510K, don't do any clinical work whatsoever, and get an approval and start selling. That does not end well. So we did that, and we started trying to treat grafts, and lo and behold, the clots were way tougher than we anticipated to get out. And the physicians were not at all thrilled about the technology. We skipped, like I mentioned, we skipped all the clinical research, and our bench model consisted of jello, was nothing like real life. But they said, let's do a couple animals and just put it in people. That's where we're really going to learn. But it kind of put a bad taste in people's mouth from the day one. It was like their products are kind of. So then we started looking at peripheral arteries, but then that was not as easy as anticipated either, in that you can have an acute event where the patient, your leg starts to hurt all of a sudden, and you have a fresh thrombus. The problem is underneath it there's disease, and when you're putting devices in there, you may get the clot out, but you may not accomplish much of anything because of all the underlying disease. And the problem is you don't know what you're going to find until you're in there. And so it was really difficult for physicians to predict who was going to have a good outcome, who wasn't. What are we going to shower downstream as a result of this agitation and whatnot? Then we identified a really large unmet need in DVT. There's virtually no catheter-based procedures or fast procedures for treating deep vein thrombosis. The procedure at the time was lay these poor patients on their stomachs for 2 to 4 days straight with small catheters inserted behind their knees, assuming it was bilateral, and slowly dripping in lytic agent for day after day after day until the thrombus was dissolved. And that was sort of when they were even intervened on. Generally, they would just take Coumadin or various pharmaceutical agents for months and months and months trying to dissolve the clots. And the problem is there's valves in the veins, and the longer the clot stays in there, you're more likely to have permanent damage to those veins, and your veins will never work properly after that. So we were looking to be able to get in there, get the acute clot out very quickly before this injury could occur to the valves. But again, it was difficult. It was a brand new procedure, so there was a ton of market development that needed to be done. Physicians in the interventional radiology space are not quite as aggressive with new therapies as, say, an interventional cardiologist might be. We had to prove that it actually worked. But we did find a home there. And again, it was difficult because we couldn't predict outcomes very well. With peripheral arterial thrombosis, you get pain immediately. With clots, your leg will swell up and things like that. But there's a lot of underlying disease left behind, and you don't know until you get in there what you got. It may seem like an acute problem, but it could be 10 years old. So there were a lot of challenges in terms of predicting outcome with all of these different indications. So I think one thing that's really important in terms of lessons learned is understand the problem you're trying to solve. We took tons of shortcuts with this in terms of not developing a strong bench model, not really doing any animal work whatsoever, with the exception of a safety study just to make sure we didn't shred the vessel, essentially. And we went into the clinic with products that really didn't work very well and needed a lot of work to refine. Market development takes a lot of time, so while new emerging markets seem really exciting, and the engineering could take a matter of a year or 2 years, the market development could take 5 years and millions of dollars. And data, never let your company shortcut the value of clinical data. I mean, it's just an absolute requirement these days. it can really, really hurt you. And there just really are no shortcuts anymore. I think back in the day, we were working with a lot of people that had been in the industry a long time, where it was 2 years and we'll get acquired, and this is so, but everything has changed. It was ultimately purchased by Covinian last year. I think I got a check for about $13. That's pretty awesome. But the product is still on the market, which is pretty exciting. Then a lot of people say, boy, I want to start my own company. I thought the same thing. I was really unhappy at Bacchus towards the end. Had some ideas in the obesity space, filed some provisional patents in intellectual property, started working in my garage, all that kind of stuff, learning about the anatomy, the physiology, and the patent landscape. But as a first-timer, I got really good advice from one of our lawyers. The beauty of working in startups is you get access to all these people. So our general counsel was a really great guy. I was able to meet with him and talk with him about starting my company. He helped me found the company and get it up and running, so to speak, in terms of the legal paperwork. But he also gave me great advice and to not go it alone. Find a serial entrepreneur that's done it before, that knows the ropes, knows the pitfalls, and would act as an advisor. So I ended up partnering with a guy who had done it multiple times, was very, very successful, and he even had his own sort of IP partner, patent lawyer. And so we started digging into all the patent work, and it just exploded. There were new patents filing every single day, and the landscape was so dynamic and so uncertain. We decided it was too much risk for not only IP reasons, but also the clinical issues associated with working in the stomach. So my lesson is, if you want to start your own company, it's the first time you've ever done it, don't have such a big ego to think you can do it by yourself. Partner with at least 1 or 2 people. Get people on as your chairman of your board or something like that who knows the ropes and can help you.